This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, nononsenseforex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 202 is brought to us by Blueberry Markets. I'll reiterate what I said last week. They are giving away 3 free months of TradingView Premium, even if you're a member of Blueberry Markets currently or not. Doesn't matter. I'll have all the details down below in the show notes, but you should really consider this broker anyway. You can trade everything off of MT4, MT5, and TradingView now. Forex, crypto, stocks, indices, metals, all of it with the best customer service in the world. What are you doing trading with any other broker outside of the United States? Get on board, get your free TradingView Premium, trade with Blueberry Markets, and never look back. Blueberry Markets, unfortunately, is not for American traders. Do not blame Blueberry. Blame your government. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and one thing I want to get out of the way before we move forward, because this really irritates me about YouTube. Many things do. They don't do anything in our best interest at all as creators. They know we depend on them. But one of the things they do sometimes, and this has happened a disturbing amount of times in the past year and a half maybe, is that I go in and moderate comments because I get a lot of spam. And so I approve the comment, and then I'll go back and sometimes respond to it. What happens every once in a while is I would say maybe 3 to 5% of all these comments that I approve completely disappear. And then somebody might come back and wonder why their comment has disappeared or wonder why I have not responded to them. And that's really unfair. We got such a great response from last week's episode. And there were 2 comments in particular that were really well drawn out, and these people were taking action, which was awesome. And I seemed to really be going through with it. And then these are the comments, 2 of the comments that got deleted, and I never got to respond. So I will respond now and say to the guy who was moving to Vietnam, great move. You're going to wonder why you didn't do it sooner. There are going to be frustrations, but just know that you are 100% doing the right thing. And the guy from the Netherlands, young guy, I love everything you're doing. Your question was about the emotions you're feeling right now. I'm here to tell you, as somebody who's in their 40s, those emotions are completely normal, and they will change a lot throughout your 20s. So if you don't like the emotions you're feeling right now, don't worry, they will change, but get ready for those new ones too. Okay, thank you for sitting through that, everybody. Now that's out of the way. On to episode 202, and if you did not hear episode 201, you're going to want to pause this right now and go back and listen to it. But we're not going anywhere. We'll still be right here for you. But this is a 2-part series, without a doubt. And episode 201 illustrated the need for this type of contrarian thinking, especially in our financial lives, because the world does not want you financially independent. They don't even want you financially capable. We spoke about that last episode. For example, in schools, they teach you how to identify different types of dinosaurs, for example, which is 100% fucking useless, but they never teach you how to do anything with your money, which affects every adult on a day-to-day basis. This is by design. They've been complaining about this for 30 years, and they have done nothing about it. This is at least the case in the United States. I'm sure this is very similar in most parts of the Western world. But I would wager to say that most people here do not want to be caught in a prison of social programming and would like to be financially independent and be able to do whatever they want. And this entire podcast exists for that very purpose. And we cover every aspect of this. Show me another podcast that does what we do here. They might attack portions of this, but nobody covers the whole thing. So, like I said, last episode, we have a lot of new people as well. This episode that's happening right now is very similar to an episode we did called What We Believe. So if you guys remember that episode, this will be similar with a few new add-ons and clarifications. But for anybody who is new or semi-new, it's only fair you understand what you're getting into. We spoke about the need last week. Now we're going to talk about our actual approach. Now, it won't be a deep nuts and bolts approach to exactly how we do things. That is what we do in more individual, specialized episodes. If you're interested in the more technical analysis aspect of things, we briefly touch on that because the majority of people who have found this podcast are also aware of my Forex material, which is a complete course on how to do this. So we just touch on a few things that are unique to the way we do things here at the 10-Minute Contrarian podcast. So look for episodes like the monthly chart, like stop loss and take profit. And that should be able to get you most of the way there. Now, if you're looking for an indicator to use, I'll say it again, I have an entire course that you should probably take on my YouTube channel. But if you go there and you type in indicator profile series, at this stage, I have just handed people really great indicators they can use, and you will have many, many to choose from. And if you need further help, we have an entire Discord. The link is going to be at nononsenseforex.com/FAQs. So when I say that you're covered from every angle, you are covered from every angle. Now let's get to it. We here at the 10-Minute Contrarian podcast understand the need for asymmetrical returns. That is, lopsided returns to the upside. We probably don't have enough money to simply get rich off the stock market, as well as it has done historically well. That's probably not enough for us. We didn't start with enough money. We didn't get in this game early enough to really matter. So in order to really get where we want to get to, we are going to need more outsized gains. So asymmetry is one of the main things we look for and go after on this channel. Now, when people hear this for the first time, they might be saying, oh, well, that sounds really risky and really dangerous. It is if you do it incorrectly, and most people, I put this number out there again, over 99% of people out there in this world, I can guarantee you, do this incorrectly. If you do this correctly and take an intelligent adult approach, it's no different than anything else, with one exception. The gains are much bigger. And so, VP, how do we approach this like adults? I don't really get what you're saying. Well, for one, we embrace the long game. When I say long game, I mean the very long game. Now, you have to understand that these gains could happen instantly, or they could happen 5 to 7 years down the road, and that's the time frame you really have to look at and be comfortable with. As a lot of people who listen to this podcast can tell you, it is absolutely worth it. You will still take losses, but it won't matter because the gains more than make up for it. So psychologically, you have to prepare yourself for this by understanding that our time horizon is very long and we only invest money that we don't need. When you invest money that you rely on or you think you may have to rely on it, it completely messes up what you're trying to do. You will be tempted to pull that money out way too early, rather than just sitting back and forgetting about it. I mean, sure, you have it on a spreadsheet. You check the spreadsheet every month or so, but that's about it. But here's the thing. This emergency situation, this worst case scenario that you keep fritzing out about, if it ever happened, you just simply move the money from the investments back over to your bank account. When you invest in something, you're not spending that money. You are simply relocating it. And this sounds really obvious, but it's very hard for most people to understand. But once you have figured these things out, congratulations. You can now invest in things that pay you very, very well and actually be one of the selected few people who do it the right way. It's amazing what happens when you put these two things together. It's like alchemy. Now, you still might be saying, well, VP, a lot of these asymmetrical investments that you're talking about go to zero. Well, yes, they do. And here's the other part of it. There is a method to this as well. We attempt to find things which are inevitable, things that can't not happen in the future. So things like crypto, for example, we pretty much know that this is the future of payments and computing and a lot of different things. So that being said, how do we not end up like a lot of people and lose our shirt anyway, even though we're putting money down on something that's inevitable? Well, one, we don't do what I just said and play the long game, which you have to do, especially in a brand new industry. You know, we all know by now these things take a very long time to create, perfect, and then implement. But you can't just wait until they're done because then the price is usually going to be a lot higher. So you have to speculate early, but not too early. Here's the rub. You can wait for a bit of a washout in the crypto market because they happen all the time. Then you sit back, take a look at the sectors that you are very bullish on, or just the sector as a whole, and find out who the best of breed companies are. Who are the obvious winners at this stage of the game? Who have been through the highs, been through the lows, and shown that they are not only not here to screw people, but they are here to stay. And you focus on those, and you add on to those positions as time passes. You don't approach this like a small child and say, well, I can get a 15-to-1 return on Avalanche, but I can get a 2,000-to-1 return over here on Thunder Monkey. First of all, you have no idea what these returns are going to be in the future. Absolutely zero. Two, this is almost no different than playing the lottery, and as we all know, the lottery is a tax on poor people because poor people don't know anything about money. And as usual, governments will make sure that their money is taken away from them over time. Is that the bucket you want to be in? Because that's where you're putting yourself. You know, what most people don't understand is you can still get crazy outsized returns in the larger plays. The plays that have a much higher probability of actually becoming something later on. I mean, it's not that tough, contrarians. You just simply do the opposite of what a dumb little kid would do, who's desperate to get a Lamborghini when they're 22, and things are probably going to work out pretty well for you. And you can catch up in a very short amount of time. Now, on to the next line I have here, and I just got done talking about crypto because that's a really perfect example of the asymmetrical inevitabilities that we have in this market that we can and have taken great advantage of. But we here make damn sure that we spread our investments out. We are not pie-eyed, cultish maxis in anything, no matter how much we believe in it. Because we know there are asymmetric inevitabilities in a lot of other areas too. I've been talking about precious metals on my channel since gold was at $1,600 an ounce. And just like crypto, you can leverage this by playing mining stocks and sticking to a lot of the better ones. They are going to frustrate you, but when they run, they run. Energy is inevitable. The supply may go up and down, but the demand does nothing but grow, at least long term. And there are so many huge opportunities here, opportunities we have already taken advantage of here. And because of this inevitability, it's okay, especially in the energy sector, to go ahead and invest in things that move a bit slower. Because energy, for example, is at the root of so many things. You're more or less betting on the race and not the individual horse, which we love here, because you can still get nice returns, especially on energy, because, and this moves me on to my next point, we also believe that dividends are an absolute cheat code. And a lot of energy stocks, by the way, will pay you over and over simply for investing in them. I often talk about investing in dividend stocks after you have made asymmetrical gains, which a lot of us already have. But you can, and I think you absolutely should, do this alongside the asymmetrical investments you already have. Because in many ways, I know there's trade-offs with dividends sometimes. I understand both sides. But in my opinion, this dividend investing is superior to standard investing in every way. After the end of the year, you get a bonus on top of what you already made if you have a gain. And if you have a loss, that entire loss might be completely mitigated because of the dividends that you got paid. People who have been in the trading game for a while understand just how significant and almost unfair this is. Like, you absolutely don't and probably shouldn't have an entire portfolio of things that are so volatile they could either go to the moon or damn near go to zero. Now, the things we invest in have a microscopic chance of going to zero, but you understand what I'm saying. And, this all goes back to not being a desperate investor. Desperation will kill you. Bet it like you got it. Invest the way somebody who's already rich would invest and carry that mindset forward. And you can do this by investing in things that will likely pay you very well one way or another. Now, I just got done talking about offense and all the ways that we can play offense and get outsized returns compared to somebody who just invests in the regular stock market. But one of the biggest things that separates us from them, if we weren't already separating ourselves out as much as we possibly could, is that we also understand defense as well. And you know what's great? You can play defense and cover your ass from pretty much any horrible situation that may arise in the market or in the world and still make money off of that defense. But the important part is that you play both. Now, there's a couple ways we do this. Number one is on the technical analysis side. We believe in the monthly chart here. You want to talk about cheat codes? My God. As soon as that episode came out, you guys saw it. You went back and looked at the monthly chart on some of the things you like, and you saw exactly what I was talking about, didn't you? Now, what this does, and I don't know why everybody isn't just completely tuned into this, but they're not at all. It's kind of just us. What you can do is you cannot be like your average investor and absolutely take it in the b-hole every time there is a downturn in the market. Traders understand this. What would happen if we just eliminated like 70% of your losses? What would your account look like then? It would look amazing. But unfortunately, your buy and hold forever people don't know how to do this. And, God love their patience. You have to have that. I'll give them this part. But man, you don't have to sit there for a year or 2 years and just take losses because of this ideology. You can bank some wins, and then when the monthly chart says, hey, we might be in for it for a while, pull that money off the table and wait for the storm to pass. And then sit there and watch everybody else take in the shorts, while the newfound cash that you just cashed your stocks out for, or gold or whatever, is doing nothing but gaining value as everything else gets cheaper. Explain to me how this is not a superior approach. Are you going to be wrong sometimes? Well, sure. Technical analysis is not perfect. Markets are not deterministic, they are probabilistic. But that's what's great. Because of our approach, we have those probabilities on our side. But back to defense. If you don't understand and embrace the defensive game, then you are really not made for this podcast. Because there is no better peace of mind than knowing that you are protected from anything that can come your way. Again, like I was talking about last episode, we have been programmed to be assured that nothing bad will ever happen. And in the Western world, during the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and most of the 2010s, that was pretty much the case with a few exceptions. But this decade, as we've been talking about a lot, there's cracks in that veneer. We have seen things we have never seen before, and we have seen everything, every metric, everywhere, in Western society at least, trend downwards for the first time in our lives, with very little end in sight. And we have also seen when certain things happen that our governments are generally not very good at handling it, and it's come to be one of those things that if they can do it, they will do it. Things that we never thought they would do. But when things go wrong, God forbid anything goes wrong, but when they do, we now know that not only can they, but they absolutely will. Look at 2020. Look at the trucker protest in Canada. Look at the millions of people debanked in the UK. And the US has done this too. Look at where they put your tax dollars nowadays. Does it make you mad? Does it aggravate you? It actually shouldn't. That's what we talk about on this show. We're not one of these people screaming into the sun every day. That's what peasants do. If you play proper defense and hold on to things that those who are working against you can't fuck with, because as we explained last episode, they are always working against you in some way, whether they're playing the short game or the long game. They are never on your side. They are never working in your best interest. And this is where defense really becomes the beautiful game. Having money is great, but having money and making sure nobody can fuck with you and being bulletproof is unmatched. Your average rich person is so over-leveraged into one thing and one place that their life's usually a mess. Like I said before, I know people like this. And you'll hear people tell stories, yeah, I got completely wiped out during the last financial crisis. Why? How? Like, you're speaking a language I don't understand. How were you not spread out? How were you not playing defense? So that kind of gets into what I'm talking about here. Holding things like gold, like Bitcoin, like other foreign currencies, and using what we know to actually trade your cash for better cash and then back again. That was a whole episode. This is one way you not only spread yourself out, but guard yourself against fiat debasement, which affects literally everybody in a negative way. Imagine if it affected almost everybody in a negative way, except for you. And we have probably gone over at least a half dozen different ways you can protect yourself here. And not only should you should do multiple different types. Because why would you spread your investments out when it comes to offense and not spread everything out when it comes to defense? Which leads me into something we talk about more and more on this show as time goes on. And that is spreading out where your assets actually are. And that includes spreading yourself out as well. This is the hardest part for most people to do because we have gobbled up so much programming that we have rooted ourselves down to the place we grew up and have just decided to pay taxes there and be affected by everything that those governments do for the rest of our lives because this is exactly what they want. The last thing they want is somebody who gets it and somebody who has minimal ties to the place where they were born, and therefore somebody who you cannot control because they are uncontrollable. And you accomplish this by spreading everything out, including yourself. On the spreading your money outside, having money in gold is a great way. Having money in crypto is a great way outside of the banking system. But banks are still very necessary, and if you do it right, can be very, very beneficial too. But at the very least, at least you won't be tied to one. That is bananas. But that's what your average person does. Have fun with that. Have fun being controlled by the whims of a bank, which, one, at the bank branch, they don't even have enough cash to back up your money. Two, they have lent your money out to other people at a rate of 10 to 1 or even more. Like nothing they do on the commercial level is in your best interest most of the time, but they are still a necessary evil. So the best way to combat this is to spread yourself out across multiple banks in multiple countries. Spreading yourself out across multiple banks in the same country is better than nothing, but if you don't like the idea of being tied to one bank and the whims of what they do and the mistakes that they make, why are you okay with doing that in one country? Countries who have already shown that they don't do anything in your best interest. And if the world ever goes south in any way, they've shown that if they can, they will. So you need to spread your money out across several different banks, at least. And this is not as hard to do as you think it is. Even if you're American. If you're American, it will be a bit harder, but still very possible, and you can do this remotely if you want to. But if you really want to get the best of it, you can add on the other part we talk about all the time here, and that is residency somewhere else. You can do this with almost no presence requirements, so you don't even have to live there if you can't do it, but you will probably want to live there, especially if it is a country outside of the Western world, because what we said before here too, the poor always get screwed, the middle class, what's left of them, gets screwed next, and the only people who are really insulated from a lot of this are the rich. Now, even with asymmetrical investing, because you have to play the long game here, and we don't know how long it's going to take for these things to completely do what they are supposed to do, it's going to take you a while to become rich unless you do two very major things. One, leverage the extra ability a foreign residence permit gives you by getting one in a tax-free or very low tax or pass-through tax jurisdiction and making the taxes you pay every year go way down. At the end of the day, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. But we are not trained to see things this way. Why would we? They want you to pay as much tax as possible so they can steal it and go spend it on stupid shit. Things that are certainly not in your best interest, let's put it that way. So that is, I'm not going to say step one, but that's a major step, because what you can do instantly is get those residency permits, those temporary and sometimes permanent visas, and just simply live somewhere else that treats you a lot better. And by a lot better, I mean you become a rich person if you can find a way to make Western money online, which again is not hard to do. People are like, well, I don't want to take a pay cut. Well, yeah, if you take a 20% pay cut, but you're paying 40 cents on the dollar, what does that give you? Like, do the simple math here, guys. But the moment you step foot in some of these countries, you become a top 5%er. And in some cases, a top 1%er. And the type of life you can lead in countries like this as a rich individual are worth 10,000 times over no longer being able to find your favorite cereal at the supermarket. So really, like, working the candle at both ends, crazy good offense done in an intelligent way, and common sense defense, making sure that no matter what happens to you, you are well insulated and bulletproof, not only by having things that can't be touched, but also by being untouchable, by not being over-leveraged to one place, and becoming rich in the place where you do exist. And believe you me, we're going to be talking a lot more about this part as time goes on. We cover all of those bases here, because there's a better life out there, contrarians. And all it takes are two things. One, a mindset shift, getting away from the way we were programmed all this time. And I know that's difficult, but it's like one of those things, like once you're there, you're there. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then actually having the balls to execute on it. I mean, how much more pain are you willing to take? How much more misery are you willing to take before it gets too much? You can get ahead of it now and work towards a better life, because there's a better life out there. You don't just have to sit there and accept it like everybody else does. And like crabs in a bucket, they want you to experience the same with them. That's their decision. That's their life. You get to be in control of yours. So that being said, what will it look like? I guess that part's really up to you. And as we already know, some things are quicker than others, but you have to do them all, especially the things that take time. And because they do take time, the sooner you execute on them, the better, the less you have to wait. But let those people who are stuck in their own self-made prisons sit back and call you crazy, when you know that you're crafting the life that you actually want and that you're just early.